What do you do when a killer writes you a letter? I mean, before you even know he exists.
Yeah, it's a chilling thought, isn't it?
And that's pretty much what started happening in Benicia, California. Quiet little town. December 20th, 1968.
Right, it was a Friday night. You had these two teenagers, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday. They were just parked out on, a lover's lane near Lake Herman Road, trying to get a moment alone.
And it turned out to be their last moment.
Sadly, yes. Their bodies were found just after 11 p.m. It was brutal. David was shot once in the head.
And Betty Lou.
She'd obviously tried to run. She was shot 5 times in the back. Horrific for the town, absolutely. But, at that point, it wasn't making huge headlines outside the area. Just a terrible local tragedy.
But that feeling, that chill, it didn't stay local for long. Fast forward a bit to July 4th, 1969.
Independence Day, fireworks going off, people celebrating.
Exactly. But for Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau, parked out at Blue Rock Springs Park near Vallejo. Well, the fireworks weren't the main event that night.
No. Just before midnight, while they're sitting there, this car pulls up. A man gets out, shines a flashlight in their eyes.
And just opens fire.
Just like that. Gunfire erupts. Darlene didn't make it. Michael was hit multiple times, severely wounded, but somehow, incredibly, he survived.
Did he get a look at the attacker?
He did, yeah. He described him as stocky, white, wearing glasses. Seemed like a small detail then, maybe, but it became pretty important later.
And then came the call that changed everything.
That's right. Less than an hour after that shooting at Blue Rock Springs, the Vallejo Police Department gets a call.
From the killer?
From someone claiming to be. The voice was apparently very calm, eerily matter-of-fact. He confessed to the Blue Rock Springs attack.
Okay, terrifying enough.
But then he dropped the bombshell. He also claimed he was responsible for the Lake Herman Road killings, the Jensen and Faraday murders months earlier, and he gave details. Things only the police and the killer could possibly know.
Wow. So he linked them himself.
Exactly. And that's the moment, really, when the Zodiac Killer, as he'd soon call himself, stepped out of the shadows.
He wasn't done yet, though, was he? The letters started arriving.
Oh, yeah. Just a few weeks later, 3 nearly identical letters land at the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald.
And they all started the same way.
Every single one. That infamous line, "This is the Zodiac speaking." It wasn't just a confession anymore. This was like a declaration. Game on.
And inside these letters,
Yeah,
it wasn't just text, right? There was something else.
exactly. He included this challenge, a cipher. 408 characters, weird symbols, letters, drawings, all mixed up.
That code.
A code. And a demand. He told the papers to publish it on their front page or he'd kill again. More people would die.
So the newspapers were forced to comply.
They really didn't have a choice, did they? Faced with that kind of threat. They published it, which, put the entire public right in the middle of this developing nightmare.
And someone actually cracked it.
Amazingly, yes. Not the police initially, but a school teacher, Donald Hardin, and his wife, Betty. Ordinary people, probably terrified like everyone else, but they sat down and worked through it.
What did it say? What was the message?
It was deeply disturbing. It revealed his mindset, something like, "I like killing people because it is so much fun."
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. So right there, you see, it's not about money, not revenge. It's the thrill, the pure, twisted pleasure of killing and this weird sense of superiority.
And he didn't stop there. The next attack, it felt different. More theatrical.
September 1969, Lake Berryessa up in Napa County. That's exactly the word for it. Theatrical.
And terrifyingly bold.
Who were the victims this time?
2 college students, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard. They were just having a picnic by the lake, quiet afternoon.
Until he showed up. And picture this, he walks out from the trees wearing this bizarre outfit, a black square executioner-style hood, completely covering his face with that circle cross symbol, his symbol sewn onto the front.
Like something out of a horror movie.
Totally. He approached them very calmly, apparently, talked to them, tied them up, and then just stabbed them. Viciously. Repeatedly.
Did they both?
Cecilia died from her injuries. Brian, again, incredibly survived. He is able to describe the whole horrific encounter.
And the killer left his mark again.
He did. Before he left, he walked over to Brian's car and, using a marker, he wrote the dates and locations of the previous attacks he claimed Lake Herman Road, Blue Rock Springs, and now Lake Berryessa. And he signed it with that circle cross symbol.
That symbol was becoming infamous.
Absolutely. It was his calling card. A signature of pure terror left right there on the victim's car door. Talk about control.
And then just 2 weeks later, he strikes again, this time right in the heart of San Francisco.
Yeah, he moved into the city itself, October 11th, 1969. Paul Stein, a cab driver, picks up a fare in the theater district.
Seemingly normal pickup.
Totally routine. The passenger asks to go to Presidio Heights, a wealthy neighborhood. They get to the intersection of Washington and Cherry Streets, and the passenger shoots Stein in the head, point blank.
Another random victim. But this time there were witnesses, weren't there? And something went wrong with the police response.
Tragically, yes. There were witnesses, teenagers across the street, who saw a man wiping down the cab after the shooting. They called the police. But somehow, in the radio dispatch, the suspect description went out as a black male.
But the killer was white. Michael Mageau described him as white. The Lake Area survivor described him as white.
Exactly. So the first officers arriving on the scene were looking for the wrong person. And the chilling part is, reports later suggested that the actual killer, a white male matching the descriptions, likely walked right past those officers just moments after the murder.
Unbelievable. A missed opportunity.
A huge, tragic missed opportunity. He just slipped away into the night. A ghost.
And he couldn't resist taunting them about it, could he? The piece of shirt?
No, his ego wouldn't let him. He mailed a piece of Paul Stein's blood-soaked shirt to the San Francisco Chronicle. Proof positive it was him. It wasn't just claiming it anymore. It was like sending a trophy, a gruesome piece of the victim.
And a message.
A clear message. I can strike anywhere, even in the city, kill someone, walk past your officers, and you can't stop me. By the end of 1969, the Bay Area was just gripped by fear. It changed everything.
How did it change daily life?
Oh, profoundly.
Yeah.
You had schools canceling outdoor recess. Parents were terrified to let their kids walk to school alone. People started escorting their children everywhere. Even getting the mail felt risky, wondering if the next letter from him might arrive.
Because he kept writing.
He kept writing.
Hey.
More letters, more threats, more of those disturbing ciphers. He even threatened to shoot out the tires of a school bus and, quote, pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out.
Just pure terror. What were the police doing?
They were throwing everything they had at. Multiple counties involved, dozens of detectives working full-time. They were chasing down every possible lead, scrutinizing every word in his letters, interviewing countless people. Theories were flying everywhere.
But no arrests. No solid leads.
Nothing concrete. He stayed one step ahead. Just this elusive, terrifying presence sending shockwaves with every letter, while the police seemed powerless to stop him.
So by early 1970, he wasn't just a murderer anymore. He was something else.
Exactly. He'd become this, boogeyman figure, a master manipulator of fear. It went beyond the actual killings. It became this psychological warfare, this game he was playing with the entire region.
And the letters just kept coming for years.
Yeah, between late 69 and around 1974, there were over a dozen confirmed letters sent to newspapers, police, sometimes even private citizens, usually starting with, "This is the Zodiac speaking."
What was in them? More threats.
Bragging, mostly. Claiming more victims, though many couldn't be confirmed. More ciphers. Diagrams of bombs he claimed he'd planted near schools never found, thankfully. It was all about maintaining that control, keeping the fear alive.
You mentioned more ciphers. Was there another big one after the first?
Oh, yeah. The really famous one, the 340-character cipher, he mailed that in November 1969, and that one stumped everyone. Professionals, amateurs, everyone. For decades.
How long did it take to crack?
51 years. It wasn't solved until 2020.
Wow. And what did it say? Did it reveal his identity?
No, unfortunately not. It was more about his ego. Again, something like, I hope you're having lots of fun and trying to catch me, and then this bit. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise sick all the sooner. So, more arrogance, that disturbing lack of fear, but no clues about who he actually was.
And the other claims in 1970, the school bus bombing.
He claimed responsibility for planning one, yeah. Sent a diagram labeled, "To kill a bus full of kids." Chilling stuff. But no evidence of an actual bomb was ever found. He also sent a greeting card around that time with another piece of blood-stained cloth, again taunting them about the Paul Stein murder.
So it was just constant psychological pressure.
Constant. Threats against random people, police officers, children, letters filled with weird astrological symbols, coded phrases, references back to the murders. Every time a letter arrived, the city would kind of freeze again. Plans canceled, kids kept home, police chasing shadows. But often, there was no body, no bomb. Just the ink on the paper and the fear.
Then after 1974, things changed.
Well, the letters had already slowed down after 1971. Then there was this gap, years of silence. Suddenly, in 74, a couple more odd letters surfaced. One was praising the movie The Exorcist, bizarrely. Another had this chilling final scorecard. Me, 37, SFPD equals 0.
37 victims he was claiming.
That's what he claimed. Police could only confirm a handful. And after that, silence. Real silence this time. No more confirmed murders linked to him. No more definite letters. He just vanished.
Where did he go? What do people think happened?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Theories abound. Did he die? Did he get locked up for something else entirely unrelated? Did he just lose interest? Some investigators, like Robert Graysmith, who wrote the book Zodiac, believe he kept killing, maybe in other places, under different patterns. We just don't know.
Have there been main suspects over the years?
Several. But the name that always surfaces, the most prominent one, is Arthur Lee Allen.
Why him?
A lot of circumstantial things lined up. He had a history of violence. He owned watches with the Zodiac brand name, had typewriters similar to those used for some letters, lived near some crime scenes. Police searched his place, found weapons, suspicious writings, but
no solid proof.
Crucially, DNA testing done later on saliva from the envelope stamps didn't match Allen. Fingerprints found were inconclusive or didn't match him either. He always denied it. Passed polygraphs, though those aren't always reliable. He died in 1992, never charged.
What about more recently?
Yeah.
Any breaks with new technology?
Well, they retested evidence in the 2000s, got partial fingerprints, some partial DNA profiles from looking the envelopes and stamps, but nothing conclusive enough to point definitively to one person or to rule Allen completely out for some. Then in 2021, you had this independent group, the Casebreakers, make headlines.
Right, I remember that. They named someone.
They named Gary Francis Post as their suspect. They cited things like photo comparisons, supposed connections to military codes they thought were in the letters, but the FBI pushed back, said the case remains open, and hasn't confirmed Post as the Zodiac, so officially still unsolved.
So he transforms from this terrifying killer into, what, a legend.
Pretty much. He's become more than just the sum of his crimes. He's this symbol of the ultimate unsolved mystery. The story itself, the taunting letters, the ciphers, the costumes, the near misses. It's almost bigger than the terrible reality of the murders now. He's America's phantom killer.
And that central question just hangs there. Who was he?
And the odds of ever knowing for sure just keep shrinking. The cultural impact, though, is huge. You mentioned Graysmith's book, then the movies like Dirty Harry, which was inspired by Zodiac, and David Fincher's Zodiac, documentaries, podcasts like this one, endless online forums.
Why do you think it still fascinates people so much?
It's the not knowing, isn't it? The lack of closure. With most infamous killers, we eventually know who they were. With Zodiac, there's just this void. That, combined with his direct interaction, the taunting, the games, it's uniquely disturbing. His legacy is that fear, that mystery, and that damn circle cross symbol.
And the really unsettling thought, he could still be out there.
Well, if you figure he was maybe in his mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s back in 1969, he'd be in his late 70s, 80s, maybe even older today. It's possible. He could just be some old man living somewhere. Anyone.
That might be the most terrifying possibility of all.
Yeah.
That he got away with it completely. Never identified.
He didn't just disappear. It's like he became a ghost while he was still active almost. And ghosts, well, they don't tend to answer questions, do they?
When you look back at everything, the letters, the ciphers, the calculated cruelty, what kind of person does that?
You see someone methodical, certainly intelligent in a cunning way, and deeply narcissistic. The need to communicate, to taunt, to control the narrative, that famous, this is the Zodiac speaking opening. It wasn't just about the act of killing. He craved the attention, the fear, the notoriety. Being known was maybe as important as the killing itself. You have to wonder if he kept souvenirs too.
It also makes you think about, were there signs missed? How could someone operate like that, taunt everyone and just melt away?
That's part of the enduring frustration and fascination, I think. Were there societal blind spots, police limitations at the time, just dumb luck on his part? Probably a combination of all those things.
It leaves you with so many unsettling thoughts.
Yeah.
We wanted to leave you, the listener, with a few things to ponder.
Yeah, first, what specific part of the Zodiac's behavior do you find the most disturbing, and why? Is it the randomness, the codes, the taunting?
Second, thinking about the sheer terror he created in the Bay Area for years. How does that kind of sustained fear change a community, maybe even permanently?
And finally, after all this time, with no clear answers, Why do you think this case, the Zodiac Killer, still holds such a powerful grip on our collective imagination? Why does it continue to haunt us?
Definitely things to think about. If this story haunted you today, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube.